He's this commercial real estate guy who knew about an accounting concept. Now I've done over 1,000 business valuations.
Hi, I'm Jessie Greer with White Oak Legacy Partners, and welcome to the Legacy Lounge, where we focus on building, growing, and protecting legacies through business valuation, forensic accounting, brokerage, exit planning, and commercial real estate services. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Darrin Maddox, founder of MX Advisors, to talk about one of the biggest moves in our firm's history to date, the merging of MX Advisors with White Oak Legacy Partners. We'll unpack what it means for our clients, for our expanded service platform, and for the future of legacy-focused financial expertise. Because every legacy deserves expert care. Darrin, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it.
So this is some exciting times. We've had an opportunity to talk about this for quite some time now.
Yes.
And ironically, we had, I think, our very first video, I want to say almost 4 years ago.
About 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
And here we are now doing another video with some exciting news.
Absolutely.
So before we really get started into the merger between the two firms, give us a little bit about a background and foundation of MX Advisors.
You bet. MX Advisors is a boutique accounting firm based in Reno, Nevada. We started in 2009 as Eastern Sierra Professional Group, and we rebranded about 5 years ago in our attempts to get away from a geographic restriction so that we could do business valuations across the country. I'm a CPA in California and Nevada. I've worked in public accounting with PricewaterhouseCoopers, went into private accounting, became a CFO, and about 2008 decided to get into the business valuation and forensic accounting world.
Yeah.
I got the certifications, and in 2009, after I got some experience with a larger group here in town, opened my own practice.
Fantastic. And you've never looked back since.
I've looked back. I try to just look forward. It was awfully nice working for somebody else, but it's been way more funner being my own boss.
And when you look back at the transitions that you had over time, what has been some of the, what we would say, I don't know, key moments that really shaped the identity of the firm?
Let's see. Public accounting, Pricewaterhouse was just a machine.
Yeah.
Large clients, no face. Went into private industry, became a CFO. I thought I would enjoy that more, and I did, because I'm actually working on building a company.
Yeah.
But I really liked the diversity of having multiple clients and honestly helping individual businesses. I really enjoy that part. Now, business valuation, we do a lot of different things for different reasons, whether it's court, IRS, but the stuff that really gets me excited is talking to someone who's looking to buy a business and they need help.
I
like to help them.
Yeah. And providing that financial background and insight in addition to the non-financial background and insight of acquiring a business or even selling a business for that matter, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So as we move forward and as we've talked about the merger of the two companies and you look at the acquisition and the fit between the two firms, what made White Oak Legacy Partners stand out as a successor?
You did. Jesse did. I've known Jessie for a while now. I can't remember the introduction. I think it had to do with a cost analysis or a cost segregation study.
It did.
And here was this commercial real estate guy who knew about an accounting concept. Surprised me.
Yeah.
And your detailed approach to it was impressive. And from there, just kept in contact, looked at some transactions on commercial real estate, as I play in that sandbox for fun.
Yep.
And you had assisted me with a couple things there. Then we started to cross paths in the, call it the business sale world and business valuation world.
Correct.
And you said, hey, I think I want to try that. And next thing I know, hey, I passed the exam. I've got my certification to do valuation. Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking of retirement then.
Yeah.
Or doing anything different then, but just grew into that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that has been a fun journey really, I think I would consider it running parallel with you as I went through this process.
Yes.
And understanding what it is, what the requirements are, someone that has experienced it, someone that already has, as you mentioned, Darrin, the designations and the background support going out there and being that professional service provider. So there's a lot of guidance that I would say really helped from my perspective too, in understanding what I needed to do and what made the most sense going out into that side of what we would call business valuation and ultimately forensic accounting as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's fascinating with the experience that you had in business valuation and forensic accounting, what type of insight do you think that as we move forward, you will bring to the table for our merger of companies? Because I know there's quite a bit of insight.
Yeah, yes, quite a bit of insight. Two things. One is there are other professionals that do what we do. Forensic accounting is a part of business valuation just because most CPA firms who do business valuation by default do forensic accounting. It's a litigation support practice. But you have an experience with small businesses. You seem to have, from what I've learned, a drive to help small businesses. And that's the whole reason I got into this.
Yeah.
And the whole reason I got into accounting 30 plus years ago was I wanted to help small businesses.
I think what's fascinating and something that I've learned along the way too is really when you go through the process of learning about business valuation, when you go through the process of learning about forensic accounting, we're speaking specific to those verticals right now.
Yes.
It's one thing to know the process from an educational standpoint, but it's another thing to understand how to implement that process and in looking at it in real life scenarios,
Yes.
how it can change,
Yes.
what to look for, how to look for it, knowing what to ask for.
Absolutely.
And I found that that has been one of the challenges as you first start off into this type of field, right? So
Yes.
I think it'd be interesting for the audience to understand what was an aha moment for you as you were getting into this. And you're like, okay, that's something that I'm going to implement moving forward because that really affected me initially.
Yeah, it changes with every job. Now I've done over 1,000 business valuations. Easy, over 1,000 business valuations. Each one is different.
Yeah.
Every single one of them is different.
Yeah.
Especially in our area. We're not in San Francisco and every business runs the same. It's Reno, Tahoe, Truckee Meadows. Everybody's small and everybody does different things and everybody has a different tax advisor that has a different approach to running their business. I think that with that experience of all those different valuations that you don't have yet, but you're getting quickly.
Yeah.
By learning by fire, that I can bring that and assist with that. But I think more importantly is knowing what to ask for is more of an educational type of process. And I like to set myself apart from others in our profession in that when I'm in court or when I'm meeting with a client, I like to explain to them what we've done. I like to explain to the judge and to the court what a business valuation is or what we did in the forensic accounting process and be a teacher.
Yeah.
I think that's the important part because we're the experts. We need to educate. It's one thing to do a forensic accounting or to do a business valuation and hand it to the client and leave.
Correct.
Which is what happens to a lot of people with their tax returns. They get their tax return and that's all they get.
Yeah.
The CPA doesn't walk them through, hey, have you ever thought about doing this?
Yeah.
I like to be more of an educator.
So what's nice about the business valuation platform is not only are we providing that really instrumental service of helping a company understand what their value is, because I think there's a lot of perception versus reality of what values are, and that's something that we have to explain, which could be a difficult conversation.
Very difficult.
But in addition to that, being a value add, being a service provider for those clients that not only want to see a number, but also a suggestion on how to maybe improve that number.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had my way about it, anybody who was getting ready to sell their business, I would like to meet with them 5 years before they do that.
Yeah.
And tell them, here's the value of your business. Now, if you do this and this, your value would be this much more.
Yeah.
And here's why. unfortunately, most people don't get that.
They don't. And the reality is that most people really haven't had the level of expertise or background in running small businesses like you or I have.
Correct.
So when you have that first person perspective, when you're the one making payroll, when you're the one looking at revenue growth, when you're the one that's implementing this out within the team, there's a little bit different mindset than just someone that's providing a value.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the most exciting part.
It is.
That's I'll use the grammar again, the more funner part is helping people understand.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
It really is. And it's interesting talking about really the transition process, right? Of our firms really merging, and as we go out there and promoting that. What surprised you the most during this process?
What surprised me the most? I don't know. Again, there's other folks in town who do what I do.
Okay.
Who do what you do. But they do it from, in my opinion, from a purely accountant's position.
Yeah.
From an accountant's accountant position.
Yeah.
And that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm not an accountant's accountant. I've got 4 other businesses going. It's an entrepreneurial process. And I think that's what I enjoy most. But I can't think of anything that's surprising me.
Okay.
The time involved in training is more than I thought, but I'm teaching somebody who is trying to learn a very comprehensive topic and doing very well at it. But I came from being a CPA for 25 years when I started. So I knew what a balance sheet was. I knew what an income statement was. I knew what financial analysis was. Forensic accounting is merely a more detailed level of an audit. And I did that.
And it really is. It's more than just plugging in numbers into a software to get the tax returns.
No, and that's there. And there's software out there that people can go sign up for and get their business value.
Yeah.
That's not what we do. That kind of software does not look at all the details of a transaction. You can look at a book that'll tell you every business that has sold in Reno, Nevada in the last 10 years, and you can see their sales and you could see the sales price and go, oh, I must be worth this much.
Yeah.
But you can't get the details of the transaction. You don't know what the terms were. You don't know if there's a carryback note. You don't know all these things. We have to get into that.
We really do.
And it's important information that changes the value of a business.
And I think the biggest misnomer about the perception of value out in the community is this idea of using a rule of thumb as a multiplier of revenue.
Yes.
And we come across that so much, and it's very difficult trying to explain that, yes, even though we'll say even the business brokerage community,
yes,
and in the just ownership community, the multiplier of revenue is always this kind of going back on, but it's not that. And it's hard trying to explain that to someone where that's all they hear. And I think that's one of the challenges that we have too, in being able to present our business valuations and have them understand it's so much more in depth than just a multiplier of revenue.
Yes, absolutely. The multiplier of revenue, you can Google it and find out what a laundromat should be as a multiplier of gross sales, or a tow truck company. That's not what we do.
No.
We do an in-depth valuation that we can go to court and testify about.
Exactly. And that's one of the key words right there. Not only go to court, but be supported if the IRS audit.
That's next. Do a business valuation that you can attach to a tax return that will not be challenged by the Internal Revenue Service.
Yeah.
If you buy the canned program that says your value is 3 times gross, and you attach that to a tax return or an estate tax return or a gift return, the IRS could push back.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden we look bad because we didn't do the proper approach. We didn't do the proper detailed analysis. That's why we do the detailed analysis, because we're either going to be under the scrutiny of the IRS or under the scrutiny of the court.
Exactly.
So we have to defend that. The other side of it is you're dealing with owners who, man, my wife and I spent 20 years building this business, all this blood, sweat, and tears. Must be worth $1 million.
Yeah, that's a tough conversation to have too.
It wasn't. It's not a business. It was just a job.
So what is it that we always say behind the scenes is you're paying for a salary?
You're paying for a salary.
You're paying for a salary.
Yeah,
so explain what that means, because I think that's an interesting concept there.
You're paying when buying a business, you mean looking at a business?
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes paying for a salary, I get what you're saying.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Basically, it's If you talk to a business broker or you talk to somebody who's helping somebody buy a business, which we do often, and we help them analyze that, we can really quickly get to them and say, you're just buying another job. You work at IGT for $100,000 a year, and this business is going to make you $100,000 a year. Except you have to pay your own retirement. You have to pay your own taxes. You take the risk of not getting the same level of business the next year. You're really just buying a job. It's not really an investment. Or you have to be able to say, can I make money if I leave this business and I can hire somebody to run it for me? Will I get my mailbox income? Or if you're just buying a lot of times, many businesses are just a replacement for a job. You're buying a salary. You're buying a job.
And it's so true. And what Darrin said beforehand really transitioned to one of the other verticals that we have under the White Oak Legacy platform is exit planning, right? And understanding what it means to plan for your exit or sale, and understanding that the sale can just be more than an outright sale to another individual. There's many other complex ways to divest your position in a company. And that's something that you mentioned earlier, that if we could get a company anywhere between 3 to 5 years out, we could help plan for the idea of being able to sell that company and have the proper structure in place to support that passive income that you're talking about that a potential buyer would want. One thing I'm going to circle back to real quick is what surprised you the most during the transition of this. I'm going to actually comment on this too. I think what surprised me the most was we each are very analytical and we each have our different ways of looking at it. Granted, I have a couple years of support coming into this. Darrin has many years of support coming into this as well. And it was a matter of, I think, merging our processes in which we like to see how things are done.
Yes.
And I think that has been something of a challenge from my perspective and help in having MX Advisors merge in with our company is some of the hurdles and some of the learning curves that we had as a company, understanding how Darrin's process worked and then trying to integrate it into our process as well. And I would have to say that any transition is going to have its, I think, hurdles, it's going to have its learning curves, but it's a matter of having two people that have really what the end goal is going to be. And the end goal is going to be a continuity of what you've created into something that we plan on continuing to grow, in addition to having your support and your services as part of our support and services. So having the client understand that with the merger of MX Advisors, that doesn't mean Darrin is leaving. All of the knowledge, all of the expertise, all of the capabilities, and all of the connections that Darrin has isn't going to leave with that. And that's important for me too, as it is important to you.
Very much.
I would have to say that was probably one of my surprises in the transition of all this, is just having the ability to understand that it's not going to be as smooth as you think it is.
I've done this before, so it's pretty smooth, Jesse.
Yeah.
You may not think it is, but it's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
You do things different than I do, but the foundation of what we do is not different. You put something in a different cell in an Excel worksheet, I put it in a different tab. At the end of the day, we're getting to the same conclusion. So you get there one way, I get there a different way. Grammar again, my way's more better.
Exactly, right?
No.
Hence the hurdle.
Yeah, hence the hurdle. But honestly, at the end of the day, if I can share my knowledge and if I can say, this, you're doing this, that isn't as important to this client. Let's do this because this client wants this or they need this.
Yeah.
And there's so many different types of transactions. After 1,000 business valuations, you learn exactly what certain clients need. So I just need to transmit that information to you. Watch, keep an eye.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
My plan isn't to dump and run. It's to stay involved. I know too many people in the community here. I want you to succeed and I want them to feel comfortable in where we're going.
And that was equally important for me as well. The idea of working with the fantastic clientele that Darrin has established over the years, but making sure that they understand that Darrin's going to be there.
Yeah, not going to let you.
And that was equally important and part of that future goal and vision outside of the small little hurdles of the merger and everything else that happens, right?
That's mechanics.
So when you look at others that might be in your position, Right. Outside, of course, joining a great firm like White Oak Legacy Partners.
Of course.
What advice would you give to those individuals that are thinking about stepping back or selling?
You got to have a lot of patience. You've got to be ready. If you're not ready, then you're not going to let go.
Yeah.
I've been through that.
Yeah.
And I bet that's what brought me to my self-employment role as an accounting firm. I went someplace to learn business valuation, and that person wasn't ready to let go.
Yeah.
And I understand that. My wife has been trying to get me to do this for a long time, and it's a long process.
It is.
So just my main concern is not leaving my clients hanging and making sure they understand I'm not going anywhere, and you can pick up the phone and call me at any time. If you have a problem with Jessie, if you want something done differently, I'm a direct line if you need it.
Absolutely.
They're not going to need it. They haven't needed it so far. So I don't think they're going to need that. But they have the comfort of knowing I'm not going anywhere. I honestly have other businesses that are still going on. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. So when you look at the future and the legacy of MX Advisors and the joining of the two firms, the merging, and then looking forward, I know we briefly touched on this, but how do you see your work continuing with White Oak's expanded platform?
I think that, maybe I'll use some derogatory terms. When I started, I just wanted to help businesses. I wanted to help buyers. I wanted to get involved with estate planners so we could do exit planning. And I got pulled into the litigation support world.
Okay. What does that mean for the clients?
That means,
or for our audience out there?
That means people who need business valuations for litigation purposes, whether they're getting divorced, whether they're having a dissolution of a partnership, the business needs to be valued to be split or sold or whatnot, which entails very detailed analysis. Involves providing documentation so you can go to court. It provides another side that is going to cross-examine you, potentially another expert that's going to refute what you say or say you're full of doo-doo. It also translates into forensic accounting work, which is auditing, which is, again, very detailed work. That's different than working for a client who's motivated and wants to sell. There's nothing positive about a divorce.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And very little positive about a partnership dissolution.
Unfortunately, when you look at conflict resolution, you're going into a position where both parties are vehemently against each other.
Yes.
You're going into an environment where emotions are already heightened, which makes it very difficult.
Extremely heightened.
Yeah.
And we're in the room when they're cutting the final deals.
Yeah.
And in divorce situations, there's crying, there's yelling, there's life-threatening, call in the bailiff. I've got stories you just wouldn't believe.
And when you look at continuing the work, and Darrin's definitely talked about it previous to the question, but it's interesting he brings up the litigation support side because that's going to be another business vertical that we continue to go after. So with that being said, I could imagine, I know that as we continue to go into that field and work with those divorce attorneys, those litigation attorneys, the expertise that Darrin has will continue to transition into White Oak Legacy Partners and myself in continuing to provide those support services for those attorneys.
Yes. Yeah. Family law, litigation, it's all a necessary, I'm not going to say it's a necessary evil because at the end of the day, when the case is done, it's extremely exhilarating. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But then when the case is over and you've testified and you've been cross-examined by the toughest in the community, you still walk away as long as we do our work correctly, which I will not let you not do. Trust me. I just can't do that. It's very fulfilling.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say as much as fulfilling as helping a new person buying a business or working with somebody estate planning, but it's up there. And there's just not enough of us doing this.
Yeah.
I harp on it a little bit, but I obviously enjoy it.
And really that last statement is one of the reasons why I decided to go into this business as well, in conjunction with others that participate in the business, including yourself. And the comments about really how this service is so limited. not only in Northern Nevada, but also Southern Nevada.
Yep.
And when you think about it, really from a per capita perspective, you don't see that much, not necessarily competition, but qualified individuals that are in this field.
And that's primarily, it is a stereotype, and I alluded to it earlier, but I'm not an accountant's accountant. And an accountant's accountant does not want to go to court and sit on the stand and be questioned.
Yeah.
Now, an accountant's accountant is extremely good. Better than me, I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Anybody's better than me filling out a tax return.
But being able to articulate
But being able
right?
to articulate and being able to talk and being able to educate, again, educate the court, educate the clients, that's something that is not a primary characteristic of your CPA who does your tax return.
It's true.
I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that it's not. Most CPAs don't want to go to court.
Yeah.
And don't want to get involved with that.
Yeah.
In addition, doing business valuation has a lot of subjective turning points.
Mm-hmm.
There's turns that we have to make, and I have to make the decision, and it may be different than what you would decide. And accountants pretty much like
Black and
debits
white.
and credits.
Yes.
And it equals.
Yeah.
2 plus 2 is 4. Sometimes it's 5 in what we do.
Yeah.
And it's scary
Subjectivity
to say that.
is
There's
difficult.
subjectivity,
Yeah.
but that subjectivity is not as subjective as everybody thinks, because it's grounded in all of the background work we do
Yeah.
in making a decision. We don't just say, it's 5 because we want it to be 5. We have something that supports that.
Correct.
We have to. We go to court or we go up against the IRS.
Yeah, it's true. So after all said and done, what excites you the most about where we're headed now?
Not having to work as much.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, he'll be working behind the scenes.
No. I think, Jessie, that we're aligned more than most.
Yeah.
In that you're involved with the commercial real estate side, maybe not so much. The brokerage side and the wanting to help estate planning, folks plan for their exit of their business. That part's just fun.
Yeah.
That part is when you can get a hold of a client who's trying to plan on the best way to exit their business, who is open to understanding that all their blood, sweat, and tears isn't a dollar value, but if they have the proper business and the proper income and they've done the right things, that is of value. Helping them is, I think that's exciting, and exit planning and estate planning is wonderful.
And I would have to say it's very rare that you find someone that not only has that same desire, not only has the willingness and wantingness to help the clients, but also understand it from the back end perspective too. And here's what I mean by that. And here's why I'm excited about what the future has in store for us, right? As MX Advisors merges into White Oak Legacy Partners, we strengthen our business valuation vertical. We strengthen our forensic vertical, right? But what it does is it creates this really holistic view that I'm excited for White Oak Legacy Partners. And what do I mean by that? I come from a multi-generational family business, right? And I've been able to see the behind the scenes, both positive and negative, of how that affects family dynamics, right? How not only the income, but also the relationships and the business and the potential of the participants within the business and the conflict that creates. So what that did for me is it created this drive to want to help others. And this is the same drive that you talk about, right? What does that mean from our perspective? White Oak Legacy Partners, as we take on the business valuation, as we take on the forensic accounting and strengthen that, we're also licensed in California and Nevada for commercial real estate brokerage and business brokerage. In addition to that, we are a certified exit planning company, right? So we hold the CEPA designation. And what you look at is the ability to help clients from a 30,000 foot view and from a specific need. And what do I mean by that? We can go in and help clients, right, with the assistance, of course, of their CPAs, of their estate planning attorneys, amongst every other individual that they have, because it is a team approach to be able to guide them to a successful transition. Now, as part of that, business valuation, forensic accounting, right? If they're looking to buy or sell a company, we have the ability to do that on our end. If they're looking to invest in or divest in real estate, we can help them with that as well. If they're looking to not necessarily quite sell yet, but they want to start exploring that opportunity, we have a plan that we can start them on where we get their initial valuation, talk to them about it, right? Look at an action plan over a 3 to 5 year period, and then assist them in potentially selling their business in addition to valuing it. So when you look at the capabilities of not only White Oak Legacy Partners, but MX Advisors coming in, you have something that you don't really see in this market. We're not just business brokers.
Right.
We're not just valuation experts, right? We're not just forensic people. We're not just commercial real estate capable. We have the ability to help the full circle of our clients. And to me, that's huge, and I'm excited for that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Once again, I appreciate you coming on. I think this is going to be an exciting new time. I'm excited for what this partnership has in store, this merger has in store. And I think our clients will be excited for that as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for joining me on the Legacy Lounge. Whether you're building, transitioning, or protecting your business or real estate wealth, you're in the right place. I'm Jessie Greer, and remember, every legacy deserves expert care.